President Trump is getting all sorts of flack for mentioning the fact that it is indeed time to open and that we are going to have to figure out how to reopen in decent fashion. The Texas Governor Greg Abbott is taking a hit. So here's Trump yesterday mentioning, yeah, we can't keep this closed forever. It's kind of time to open.
I'm viewing our great citizens of this country, to a certain extent and to a large extent, as warriors. They're warriors. We can't keep our country closed. We have to open our country. One day they said, we have to close our country. Well, now it's time to open it up. And you know what? The people of our country are warriors, and I'm looking at it. I'm not saying anything is perfect. And yes, will some people be affected? Yes. Will some people be affected badly? Yes. But we have to get our country open, and we have to get it open soon.
Okay, Trump is correct about this, and he says the shutdown is going to kill people too. Yes, this is also true. This is obviously true. Apparently, the call-ins to suicide hotlines are up 1,000%. Apparently, people are not going in for chemo treatments. Those quote-unquote elective surgeries that actually help people's quality of life, including the elderly, those are not being performed. Medical personnel are being laid off across the country when these hospitals are not even near capacity because people are not performing elective surgeries. Here's Trump mentioning all of this, but apparently it's very bad to mention this. If you mention this, you're a bad, bad man. President Trump's a bad. Like, this is the dumbest form of our political conversation. It is so stupid because no alternative has actually been provided. None. I'm sorry. Lockdown is not an alternative. Full-time lockdown forever until the end of time with no schooling, with no summer camps, with no work. None of this is a reality. But it's very easy to sit in your corner and just shout, you don't care about human life. You don't care about human life. As we'll see in a second, there's an actual New York Times columnist who's suggesting the problem here is American freedom. I have a feeling this person had a problem with American freedom long before the pandemic. Here is President Trump talking about how the shutdown will kill people too.
The fact that we're letting people go to their jobs, they have to do it. You know, if they held people any longer with the shutdowns, and you're going to lose people that way too. And you already have, I'm sure. But between drug abuse and, they say suicide, a lot of different things. There's no win, just so you know, there's no great win one way or the other.
Okay, so President Trump is right about this. Also, the Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he was ripped up and down because he was on a phone call apparently. And on this private phone call, Greg Abbott suggested that, you know what, if we reopen, that's going to add risk. Yeah, no bleep, Sherlock. Like, this is the basic premise of a lockdown. The whole if going back to work doesn't add a risk, why did we lock down? Seriously, like that would be the question. The counter question is, were we not supposed to expect additional risk when we go out? Of course we're supposed to expect additional risk. The question is, which populations are least likely to suffer from the additional risk? I will give you the answer. Young people, healthy people, children. That's your answer. Those people are not very likely. When I say not very likely, I mean exorbitantly unlikely to die of COVID-19. And to pretend that everybody is equally susceptible or that you cannot open in responsible fashion, namely by starting by protecting nursing homes, which have been responsible for 40 to 50% of all deaths in the EU and in California. In New York, a lot of people have been dying in their apartments because nursing homes in New York City are not like a huge thing. They're kind of bigger across the state because of the heavy population. But the fact is that if you protected the nursing homes, you would lower the number of deaths across the United States overall, and certainly in Europe, by anywhere from 20 to 50%, which would be near miraculous. Okay, but Greg Abbott was being ripped up and down for recognizing that there are additional risks when you open things up. Yeah, no, again, why is any of this a shock? And when people are ripping on Abbott for this or ripping on Trump for this, it's because they do not wish to come to the grips with the reality of public policy making. Instead, they're involved in this idiotic political calculation that suggests that we're all supposed to pretend that public policy has no trade-offs. This is my bugaboo. It drives me up a wall. It's what makes nonpartisan issues like risk calculation into partisan issues. When you suggest that people actually want people to die in order to reopen the economy. Absolute idiocy. Here was Greg Abbott yesterday.
How do we know reopening businesses won't result in faster spread or more cases of COVID-19? Listen, the fact of the matter is pretty much every scientific and medical report shows that whenever you have a reopening, whether you want to call it a reopening of business or just a reopening of society in the aftermath of something like this, that actually will lead to an increase in spreads. It's almost ipso facto.
That's true. He got ripped up and down for even acknowledging this. We're supposed to pretend that it's not going to lead to an increase in spread. Yes, we get it. So what's the alternative? Again, I keep asking this to people. I've provided several different possibilities here. None of them involve full lockdown forever. Those possibilities range from the controlled avalanche strategy proposed by Israeli scientists, in which we protect the elderly, we protect the most vulnerable, and everybody else is encouraged to actually go into the population and interact and to obtain an immunity to it, because if you are young and healthy, again, it is very unlikely this does severe damage to you, and you move toward herd immunity. That's basically Sweden's strategy in controlled fashion, meaning that you still do some social distancing, but the reality is that over time you actually want people to get this so it moves through the population, get herd immunity. That's possibility number one. Possibility number two, you go out, you continue to socially distance, you wear a mask, you do protect the nursing homes, the economy really takes a hit, like a more severe hit than it would otherwise. And it takes longer to reach herd immunity, but at least you haven't killed that many people in terms of the increased risk in the amount of times it takes to develop a therapeutic or a vaccine, right? Is that you're hoping for a real change on the ground. Those are a couple possibilities. I'll tell you what's not a possibility, keeping it going like this. And you know who's not evil? I'm sick of the media portraying people as evil this way. You know who's not evil? The person who wants to go back to work. This is such crap. It's utter, absolute nonsensical crap. It's not only quote unquote rich and white people who will do well reopening. Okay, so the former Obama CDC director said that the only reason people want to reopen is because they're rich and white. What absolute sheer unmitigated garbage. You know who's getting this right now? Like right now? A lot of the essential workers. You know what's happening with the essential workers? Many of them are disproportionately essential workers, particularly in the healthcare industry, like nurses or delivery people, disproportionately minority and poor. Those people are already out interacting. Those people are already getting COVID. The people we're talking about going back to work are largely not blue-collar workers. And the people who are finding it very easy to say shut down forever are people who can sit in their basement with a step and repeat behind them on CNN and get paid. I have it easy. I can lock down basically forever. I can. I mean, the reality is that my job does not require me to leave my house. But let me tell you a story. That ain't true for 90% of the population. It is not rich white people who benefit from the ends of the lockdown. The rich white people are rich. They have money. The people who benefit from the end of the lockdown are all the people who are losing their jobs, all the people who can't keep their small business afloat. This is the most demagogic nonsense. Dr. Richard Besser, former acting director of the CDC.
What's not being done? We don't have the testing capacity now to know where this disease is. We haven't scaled up the thousands and thousands of contact tracers that we need. We don't provide safe places for people to isolate or quarantine if they're identified as either having an infection or being in contact. We are saying if you have money and you're white, you can do well here. If you're not, good luck to you.
That is such nonsense. It's such absolute nonsense. We should be protecting people. If they get sick, they should be able to go home. They should get paid leave from the government, unemployment insurance, or whatever it is. No one wants people to die. We have to acknowledge that there are trade-offs to public policy, but apparently we're never going to acknowledge this. And this is how you end up with the stupidity of a Dallas salon owner getting 7 days in jail for reopening. Okay, in Texas, where Greg Abbott is supposedly willy-nilly reopening everything. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. There's a woman named Shelley Luther. She defied local and state orders and a judge's restraining order. She operated her business during the pandemic. What exactly did she do? She went into her salon a la mode, and she opened it. And she was taken into custody. Her business was deemed non-essential, which of course is nonsense. The government should not be able to deem your business non-essential. It was forced to close March 22nd after the county enacted its stay-at-home order. She reopened the salon April 24th, tore up a cease and desist letter from the county judge Clay Jenkins. The temporary restraining order was signed April 28th. She said she had not earned any income since the county's stay-at-home order was set in March. She said that she applied for one of the federal loans, but didn't receive it for weeks. She said, I couldn't feed my family. My stylists couldn't feed their families. So before Luther was sentenced to a week in jail, the judge gave her an opportunity to apologize and promise not to reopen her salon until she was allowed to do so. And here was her answer in court.
I've never been in this position before. And it's not some place that I want to be. But I have to disagree with you, sir, when you say that I'm selfish, because feeding my kids is not selfish. I have hairstylists that are going hungry because they'd rather feed their kids. So, sir, if you think the law is more important than kids getting fed, then please go ahead with your decision, but I am not going to shut the salon.
Okay, and she, by the way, she was willing to socially distance inside the salon. She was willing to do mask wearing inside the salon. The only difference between what she was jailed for and not being in jail was 1 week. Because by the end of the week, guess what Texas is doing? They're opening up all the salons with social distancing and with mask wearing. This is nonsense. I'm sorry, this is absolute nonsense. And it does betray, for a certain group of people in the United States, a real feeling that is antithetical to freedom itself. Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative media outlets in the country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.